Okay, so welcome again, and we're getting ready to start the Introduction to Google Apps for Education webinar. And just so everyone knows who it is that's doing the talking right now. So my name is Jason, and I'm the global product manager at TextHelp. So TextHelp is a company that makes all kinds of literacy support software. I've been doing that for over 20 years now, and recently I've really gotten into the Google Apps for Education um, arena to make different extensions and apps and things like that. Today is not about necessarily apps and extensions. It's more so about an introduction to Google Apps for Education. So loads of states and territories are moving into the Google Apps for Education environment, and that leaves a lot of questions about, so what do we do now, and what are some best practices and those sort of things. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Just an FYI, I am a certified Google education trainer. Prior to joining on with TextHelp, I was an instructional technology consultant in the state of Kentucky for the better part of a decade. So loads of experience with technology and using that technology with students to help increase achievement and make things more accessible and all of that good stuff. I will pop this information up again at the end of the webinar in case you guys need to contact me, but you see my email there, Twitter address, if there are any of you tweeters out there, please find me online. And then I keep a blog for TextHelp as well. And again, that's not just kind of product related stuff. That's just kind of useful resources and updates and those sort of things. So be sure to check that out as well. So here's the plan, right? Here's the plan for today. I just want to take a quick look at the growth of Google. Many of you are just getting started with Google, and sometimes the question is, well, how in the world did we get here? So it's kind of interesting to take a look at where Google has came from, and probably how you ended up um, going with Google in your setting. Then we want to take a look at kind of the Google Apps basics. So when I say Google Apps for Education, what does that even mean? What does it look like? So the majority for that part actually, and the rest of it, is really just going to be demonstration. I'm going to hop into Google Drive and Google Docs and presentations and those sort of things and just show you guys around. So once we have a handle on all the basics there, we'll then quickly move into extensions and apps. I want to make sure everyone's familiar with that. We're not going to get too far into that, but at least you'll know what an app is and extension is as it relates to Google Apps. And my goal here is just to provide you guys with some useful information. Like I said, I know a lot of people are new to this, and sometimes it can be a little uncomfortable trying something new or changing the way that you've been doing things for a while. So my goal is to make it um, easy and fun for you to do. So let's get started with that and take a look at the growth of Google. And so this pie chart that I put together, my pie chart making skills aren't the best probably, but this is the browser market share. And it's funny because not long ago, if you thought of a web browser in a school system specifically, you would have thought Internet Explorer, and that was true not long ago at all. But that's changed, and this is the worldwide market share for Chrome or for web browsers right now. You can see Chrome has the vast majority of that. The reason I pulled this up is I'm going to go out to the actual source, the browser statistics source here that tracks all that stuff, and I'm going to go back in time a bit just so we can see where this came from. So if I go all the way back to September of 2008, Chrome just released, and it quickly gained about 3% of the market share. So nothing major there. But at that time in 2008, Internet Explorer had half the market share, right? 49%. Firefox was around, moving pretty strong, and Safari and Opera was around as well. So I'm just going to slowly scroll up through here so you can see how things changed in time. Really, it wasn't anything too fast, but every month there's a little bit of an increase in the Chrome web browser. And you move on up to December 2010, you see it's pretty good market share going on there. And somewhere around March and April of 2011, Chrome actually overtook Internet Explorer as being the most, or as far as browsers there, but Firefox was still kind of the leader. And then you move all the way up to where now the most recent we have is September 2014. So Chrome has about 60% of the market share. So I share this with you because with the growth of Chrome and the popularity of Chrome, came several other things that we're seeing today. Just going to go back here to the presentation. One of those things is Chromebooks. So if you're not using Chromebooks, but you're using Google Apps for Education, you're probably going to see them pop up sooner or later. The idea behind a Chromebook is they're a small computer that just runs Chrome. So the reason we have Chromebooks is because of how popular Chrome, the browser, became. So schools are buying these left and right, and I find it interesting that the last piece of information that came out about Chromebooks is that they are about at 50% of the market share in education. So that's crazy. These things didn't even exist, 3.5 years ago, and now, if you look at the most recent sales in education, anyways, they're about at a 50% market share. So I don't know. I think that's crazy. I don't know of anything that's really grown that fast before. And I like Chromebooks. I don't know how many people on here have Chromebooks or have used them. I actually have one that I use quite a bit. It's a funny story. I have a Chromebook and I have a Mac Air at the house. And I got a Chromebook in and ordered it and opened it up. And of course, it boots up super quick. And my wife said, yeah, nobody's going to buy those because it's just a web browser. People need to do other things. And I said, I don't know. It seems pretty cool. But if you've seen a Mac Air, if you've seen a Chromebook like the one I have on the screen, they do look kind of like a Mac Air. And so sure enough, my wife had been using the Chromebook for 2 weeks and thought she was using the Mac Air. So once you start using them, I think you'll find they're quite useful. Sorry. So again, looking at Google Apps so because of the popularity of Chrome came Chromebooks, and now we have the Chromebooks and everyone's using Google Apps for Education. And this is how quickly that's grown. In 2010, there were about 10 million students using Google Apps for Education. 2012, that's doubled, and then that's amazingly about to double again here in 2014. So loads of people using Google Apps for Education. And then the question is, well, why? Why are so many people using Google Apps? And there are a few reasons behind that. One is the cost. If you guys aren't familiar with how much Google Apps for Education costs, that would be zero. It's free. A district can sign up, get Google Apps for their domain for education. Everyone gets, an email account and access to Google Docs and Drive and all that. And Google even recently announced that all students and everyone using Google Apps for Education has unlimited storage. So that's a big reason because of cost. They always use the example of Oregon being one of the first states to go all in with Google. And I think it said they saved about $1.5 million a year in IT costs. So pretty amazing stuff there. Another reason is collaboration. You can do things with Google Docs that you can't really do you can't do as easily with the Microsoft equivalent. And a lot of that has to do with sharing and collaborating and all those good things. And then, of course, the last one is ease of deployment. And that's more of a technical term that I'm using there when I say deployment. But, in the past, if you bought new software, it really wasn't the easiest thing to get that software on every computer that you had in a district or a university. And but with Google, it makes it easy because it's all web-based. And if you want everyone to have an extension or an app or an add-on, you can just push that out to everyone. So it's several reasons why people have migrated over to Google. So here, when I say Google Apps, at least for education, this is what I'm referring to, and this is what we're going to be looking at today. So Google Apps, you have Google Drive, and that's where you store things. That's where you store all your documents and files and videos and anything else at. You also have Google Docs, which is the equivalent of Microsoft Word. You have Sheets, which is the equivalent of Excel. Presentations, which is just a presentation application there that's kind of like PowerPoint. You have Google Forms, which is an awesome add-on. You have drawings, and then of course you have the apps and extensions that we will look at briefly today. Now here's the thing: we only have about 50 minutes left, so there's no way I can give a really in-depth training on all of these different apps and options and all those sort of things. I've highlighted in red what I'm definitely going to cover here. So I will take a look at Google Drive and Docs and presentations and forms, a very brief look at apps and extensions. Not going to have time to get into sheets and drawings today, but I still think you'll have a good overview. And then in the future, I hope to to add some additional trainings and options and things like that on as well, especially for some of you advanced users. So so let's do this. Let's go take a look at a few things. I'm just going to escape out of my presentation here. You'll see right now I'm actually running this from a Google presentation. So it looks real similar to PowerPoint if you're familiar with PowerPoint. I've got a tab over here, and this is my Google Drive tab. So right now I'm just in Google Drive, and it's my Google Drive account. You can see my picture there at the top right, and all that fun stuff. Sorry, I'm trying to move my GoToWebinar window out of the way here. So a couple of things before we really get started that you probably need to know about Google Drive. I'm going with the assumption for this webinar anyway is that most people are using the new Google Drive. If I click on this little settings icon over on the far right, you'll see that I can leave the new drive and go back to the old drive, but currently I'm using the new drive. And depending on your definition of new, I've had it for a few months, and there's been many people that's had it for months longer than I have. So I think the new drive is probably the most popular. So if you have the settings icon, you can probably check, and if it says leave the new drive, then you are you're currently using the new drive. Now, the next thing to take a look at is the layout. If you've just switched over to the new drive or you're in Drive right now, your listing may look a little different than mine. Mine is sorted by name, and it's a list view and all that sort of stuff, and the folders are going to be at the top. But you can change everything in Drive. You can change the way things look. Actually, the first time, when I first switched over to the new Drive, it looked completely different. If you see up here on the bar that I'm on, it says Grid View. And Grid View is going to list your folder at the top, and then any documents underneath that, kind of in in just a square screenshot there. If I wanted to go to my drive, it looks even better because you'll see all of the folders that I have at the top and so on. And then there's also this little View Details button. And so when you first go into the new drive, this is probably going to be what you see. You've got this detail screen that tells you about anything that you click on, and then you've got all your folders and your documents underneath that. So you can see all I've done to switch the look around is I've turned off the details, and then I've switched over to list view, and that gives me a view that is kind of it's similar to what the older drive was like, and I was comfortable with that. So I kept it that way. Now I'm going to pause for just a second. Again, I can't really answer too many questions until the end of the webinar, but I want to make sure people are still hearing me loud and clear and all that kind of stuff. Right. Okay. So people are still hearing me. So that's a good that's a good sign. Right. And somebody asked the question. I did see the question pop up on how do you select multiple items. So you would do that by you can click on one and then hold down the Shift key and click on others, and you can select multiple items that way. Now, once you get into Drive, the best way to think about Drive is it's just like My Documents or something like that. If you've had a PC in the past, a Windows machine, you're probably familiar with My Documents. And the idea with My Documents is that you can drop all your files in there and make folders and all that. So this is the same way. This works the same way. What's important to understand too is that I can go over here to the left column of my drive, and I can click New, and I can make new. Sorry, I'm having speech problems here. I can make new Google Docs and new sheets and slides, and there's more stuff that I can create, such as forms and so on. But you can also upload files. So just because you're using Google Drive doesn't mean you can't store Word documents and PowerPoint files and videos and PDF files and all those sort of things. You can store anything in any digital file, I should say, in your Drive. So if you're in education, if you have Google Apps for Education and it's just been switched over to where you have unlimited storage, I definitely recommend you start storing all of your stuff in Drive, just because that's going to give you a safe backup mechanism in case something were to happen to your computer. Now, Um, we'll just take a look here. I'm going to click New, and I'm going to click Folder. So I'm going to create a new folder, and it says, what do you want to name it? And we'll just be really clever and call it New Folder, and I'll hit Create. And so here now I have a new folder in the folder that I was in to start with. So you can create folders, you can create subfolders, you can create subfolders, subfolders, and so on. So you can organize this as deep as you want to. And then so if I wanted to go in and here's something called untitled document, if I wanted to go and click on it and drag it up to new folder, I could do that, and it says my untitled document has been moved to new folder. So it's real easy to create folders and then move things around and all that sorts of stuff. Now, I should also say, you guys did see here, hopefully, I can create a new folder, I can create a new doc and sheet, but here, if I want to upload a file, so if I have a PDF file or a video file or something like that, I can click File Upload, and that will upload that file right into the directory that I'm at. I can also upload a whole folder. If there's just a folder that I already have on my computer, you know, if I have one classroom documents or something like that, I can just upload the whole folder and it would put it in this directory as well. So that's kind of how you can store files in Google Drive. Now, an important thing that you can do here that I've chosen to do, this is up to you guys if you want to do this or not, but there is a settings icon that we clicked on earlier to see if you're on the new drive or not. And when you click on the settings icon, then you can click on settings again, and there are some important settings in there that you may want to choose. The first one I have, because, well, first of all, if you're using a Chromebook, you don't really have the option of using Microsoft Word and those sort of things, right? You can't install software like we're used to on Windows machines and Mac machines. You can't really install that stuff on Chromebooks. So I have it set to convert uploads. So I want to convert my uploaded files to Google Docs editor format. What that means is if I upload a PowerPoint, it's going to convert it to a Google presentation. If I upload a Word doc, it's going to convert it to a Google Doc. And this does a really good job. The only time you may see some issues there, or at least the only time I see issues, is if I have a really like a Word document where I really did some heavy formatting with tables and images and things like that. Sometimes when it converts over to Google Docs format, it may look funny, but all the information will be there. It may just not look right. But generally speaking, anytime I upload any documents, any stories that have been written or anything like that, you upload it and it will convert it just fine. So that's the first thing you'll probably want to consider doing is convert uploads. Again, it's optional if you're just wanting to use it as a storage place, that's fine, but you convert those, it'll convert them over. And the other, it's much easier to do in the new drive, is offline. One concern that people have about Google, Google Docs or just the Google Apps for Education in general, is that you always need to be online to do things. So that's not entirely true. You can turn on offline access, and this will only work in the Chrome web browser, but if you turn on offline access, that's going to kind of keep your work synced up locally. So if you do lose internet connection or you're on a plane or something like that, you can still open up your files and edit them, and then whenever you get internet access again, it will just sync those files back up for you. So that's a useful thing to know about Google Drive as well. You don't always have to be online to access it if you have this checked. Right. The only other thing it's going to kind of go right into, I'm going to open up a Google Doc and show a few things about Google Doc, but it's the whole idea of sharing files and folders and things like that. You can share files with anyone with a Google account. You can also share folders. So if you have a folder that has 30 different files in it, you could just share that folder with someone else. And it's not the same as emailing them a copy of a document like it is with Microsoft Word. So I'll show you kind of an example of some of the things you can do here. Here is a document I have titled Earth. Now I can go into the document and share it, or I can just share it here in Drive if I have no need to go into it. So if you look up at the toolbar here, there are a couple options. I could get a link to where people could just access this. Here is Share Earth, and that's what I want to do. So if I click Share Earth, now if you have Google Apps for Education, that means you have Google Apps for your domain. So you may be using Gmail, but somebody is going to email you at your name at yourschool.com, right? Not at gmail.com. we have Google Apps as well here at TextHelp. So if you email me, at texthelp.com, I'm going to get that in Gmail, and that's important because if I hit the share button here, it says enter names or email addresses. So what I could do is I could enter the name of anyone that I want to share this file with. I could enter their name or their email, and here's Martin. I could share it with him, um, and then he would get access to it. And currently, he could edit it. So that means he could pop right into the document and start editing it. Now, I'm not going to do this because every time I share something with Martin, he starts messing with it about the time I'm doing a presentation, and it's just a weird thing. So I'm going to I'll move that out of the way. But you can see you can share and let people edit. Or if you want to, you could only let them comment, meaning they can't change anything, but they can make comments on it, which is real handy in a classroom setting sometimes. Or you can just set it to view. Can't make any changes. All you can do is view it. Now, rather than sharing with individual people, say I wanted to share with with all the people that are on this webinar, it's going to be difficult for me to type in everyone's name or email to share with them. So instead, you could go and click Get Shareable Link. Now, if I get shareable link, what I can do is currently it says people at TextHelp with the link can view. So what that means is if you're using Google Apps for Education, and let's say your district is called Fayette County Schools. Well, it may say people at Fayette County Schools with the link can view. That means anyone in your domain that ends in FayetteCountySchools.com or whatever it may be would be able to view. Now, you could change that and say anyone can edit, or anyone can comment. You can do whatever you like with that. There are also some other options. If I go to more, which is what I would do in the case of this webinar if I wanted everyone to have it, I would actually, instead of just people at TextHelp with the link, I would say anyone with the link. So if you choose this, you can share it with anyone. It doesn't matter if they're in your domain or not, and they would be able to go in and view or comment or edit or whatever you decided to make the privileges there on that document. So that's some basics on sharing, and that's one of the most powerful things, in my opinion, about Google Drive and the whole Google Apps for Education is being able to share these documents and comment on them and see changes in real time and all that. I'm just going to hit cancel here. I'll show you an example. The only kind of folder we haven't talked about when you go to your drive, you have your main My Drive folder where you can put things. You have a recent folder that shows recent things you've done. You've got your trash can for things you've got rid of. And if you want to start anything, important documents, you can do that and find them there. But there's also an incoming folder. So anytime I share a document with somebody, it's going to show up in my incoming, or it's going to show up in their incoming folder. And so an example of this is Jackie. Jackie has shared something with me earlier called Ancient Rome. Now, if I were to go and open this document, now you see I'm going to be in a Google document. And I can actually go in and start making changes and all that. Now, what's cool about this is that I'm in this document right now, but you see the pink here? That's Jackie. If I highlight over it, I even saw her name popped up. And so Jackie is in the webinar right now, and she's also in this document because I can see up here at the top, there's her picture, there's her Google ID and all that stuff. So I'm in here and I'm editing, but now if Jackie wanted to make a change, and Jackie, I don't know if you can hear me or not, but if you could just delete a word or make a change or something like that if you're on there so people can see. So talk about real-time access. She just added the word "the" in front of gladiators, and I saw that happen in real time. The problem with Microsoft Word documents or any normal type files that we deal with is if I were to make that change and wanted Jackie's approval, then I would need to actually type it in Word, save it, email it, and it could have track changes turned on or something like that. And then Jackie would have to approve it or make any other changes and put version 2, and before you know it, we've got 12 different versions of this document, to where here we're all using the same version of the document, which I think is a powerful thing. Now, what if you don't want that to happen? What if I shared it with people and they can make edits if they want, but I want my own version that no one messes with? Well, you can do that too. You could either set it to view only when you send it to them, or you could just go File once you're in a Google Doc, and you could say Make a Copy, and you could just make a copy of the doc and call it, your version or whatever you wanted. That copy wouldn't be shared with anyone unless you decided to do so. Now, another thing that's good about Google Docs or Sheets or presentations or anything is you don't have to save. As soon as you make a change, it's automatically saved. This has actually messed me up quite a bit because I'm so used to that occurring now, I forget to hit save on other programs that require it. But if you go in and make changes, it's always up, pretty much to the second. I could go and make a change, and my computer can blow up, and go open a new computer and sign into Google, and there would be my document with all my changes, just the way I left them. So that's, I think, a really important thing with Google Docs. Another thing that you can do, if you do have a Google Doc and you want to send something to someone that's not using Google or that doesn't have a Gmail account or anything like that, you can always change the format. And to do that, again, you would just go under the file, and we just saw that you can make a copy and you can move it to different folders, all those sort of things. But I could also choose to download as, and I could download it as a Word document or a PDF file or an HTML file or any of those sort of things. So even though you're in a Google Doc, if you need to create a Word doc from that, it's very easy to do. You can save it as a Word doc, download it, send it in an email, and so on. So pretty straightforward stuff there. Okay, so we've made a transition here. We've moved from Google Drive into Google Docs. And when you're in Google Docs, if you're just now making this change and you're used to using Microsoft or something similar, you're not going to see a lot of changes. Now, Google Docs, it won't do as much as Microsoft Word will. That's saying if you're like a really advanced Microsoft Word user. If you're just using this as a word processing application, it's going to do everything you need, plus have those additional collaboration features. So you've got your zoom in. You can change your headings and things like that if you're making lists. You've got all the different fonts that you can choose from, your font size, bold, italic, all that. You can center things. You can do your line spacing, bullets, indents, all that kind of stuff you can do just like you were in Microsoft Word. It's got word count. You can put in tables. You can add images. So again, I think for the most part, you're going to be pretty happy with a Google document, especially when it comes to those added collaboration features. Now, there are a few other things in here that I find useful. So let's say Jackie has shared this file with me. Now, I want to go in and make some changes, but Jackie could always go in and go to File and see Revision History to see a column of the different changes that have been made, and she could see what those changes are. And this would give her an easy way to tell if I've been messing with it or not, right? So that's one way of doing things. But another option that you can do is up here at the top right where it says editing. This is probably one of my favorite features of Google Docs is you can change editing to suggesting. So now if I go through and change anything, and say I wanted to change BC to AD, and so I highlighted over that, and I want to type AD. Well, instead of that deleting out the BC, it suggested it, right? It showed what I want to do. It shows I want to replace BC with AD. And when Jackie goes in, if she wants to accept this, she can hit the check mark, or if she doesn't, she can just hit the X, and it will go away. So that suggested edits, I think, is a pretty powerful tool that you can use. We use that a lot whenever we're going back and forth on documents, making suggestions and so forth. You could also go down to viewing, and if you change to the view mode, now you see I can't do anything. I'm hitting the delete key right now, but nothing's happened. So that's what happens when you share with someone, and if you choose view only, this is what they get. If you choose comments, this is what they get. Or if you choose allow to edit, then they can go in and make any change that they want to, and you can always view that on the revision history if you would like. So pretty good stuff there that you can do through Google Docs. Another thing I really like is some of the research features. I'm going to get rid of my silly suggestion there. And in addition to suggestions, you can also do comments. So a suggestion would be if I want to replace one word with another. A comment would be just a general overall comment about the writing. So if you're an educator and you're working with a student and they submit something to you, you may suggest things like commas or different words or something like that. But if you just want to put an overall comment that says great job or make suggestions, you just click where you would want to put that comment at, click the comment button, and start typing your comment, and others that are on the document can hop in and make replies and all that sort of stuff. So comments are great as well. Now, in addition, there's some cool research things. And again, this is just because, you know, it's Google, and Google, they're like the, you know, big search engine, so they can find everything. They're pretty good at the whole research side of things. So if I wanted to go into, oh, let me just find a, I'll just choose Gladiator. And under tools, lots of things under tools if you need to get a word count and all that. But you see there's research. So if I were to click on research, if you guys can see, now your GoToWebinar panel may be in the way, you can always minimize that or move it over to the other side of your screen. But if I do a research, it basically does a Google search for me right in the doc. And I can go down and you see the first thing it pulls up is a movie. It was a fine movie and all, but that's not really what we're looking for here. But now, but here's Wikipedia, for example. And so aside from whether or not you think Wikipedia is a reliable source, it's going to make for a good example. So I could hover over this and I could click preview and it could show me, you know, what that page looks like. And if I wanted to, I'll just close the preview out. I could click on the link and it would open that up in a new tab so I could have a look at it. If I wanted to link Gladiator to this page, I would just insert link, and now that Gladiator is a hyperlink that would take me to the page. And possibly the coolest thing is if you got some of the information from this page, you could choose cite. And if I do that, I hit cite, and you see it put the little 1 up there next to Gladiator. And if I scroll down to the bottom of this page, you see there's my note of where they came from. So I don't know, from a research perspective, I think that's pretty cool stuff. So that's just some of the research features that are on there. Now there are other things you can do. There are special add-ins that you can choose that let you do all kinds of crazy things with Google Docs. You know, this is just a basic overview. So hopefully you understand it's not that much different from Word, other than all the collaboration features and the suggested edits and all those sort of things. And the research features are pretty cool there as well. Again, you can also make a copy of it if you don't want to share it with someone any longer. You know, you can download it in these different formats if you would like to do that. And then if this is in my drive right now and I want to move it to another folder, I can also just click the little folder icon here and it will bring up a list of my folders, and I can choose where I would like to save, what folder or directory would I like to save this document in. So it's good where it is. I'm just going to close that out and close this little window out as well. Okay, so that's docs. Now, the presentations we're going to go through really quick here. I'm just going to close out this ancient Rome doc, and I'm going to go into the presentation that we were looking at earlier. Now, here, we were looking at Drive and docs, and the next screen I had is on presentations. I've got notes down there from something else. So you'll see that presentations look really similar to PowerPoint. And again, just looking at it, if I want to insert a new slide, I can just, you know, choose the format of the slide that I want to do. Now I'm just using a basic blank template here, and I added some color in a couple of different places. But in addition, you can see that, you know, you got undo or redo it if you didn't mean to delete something. You can add in text boxes, you can add in images, and when you add in images, you can upload your own images, or you can do a search on the web. I'll just hit search to see all the different ways you can drop images in. You can upload your own. You can take a snapshot if you want to use a webcam. If you know the URL of an image, you can do that. If you already have some in your Google Drive or your albums, like your Google Plus albums, you can use it, or you can search. And if you search, you'll see it's going to find like Creative Commons type images that you can use, and it's going to look in Google and Life and some stock images that you can search from and insert those into your presentation. So pretty good stuff there with the images. You can add in shapes and lines. You can change your layout, your theme, I should say. So they call it a template in PowerPoint. Here they'll call it a theme. Here are the themes that come with it. You can always go in and create your own themes or import themes and all that fun stuff as well. So very similar to PowerPoint. What I like about Google Presentations, again, it's the collaboration piece. I co-present with people all the time. And what happens is we have a PowerPoint and I'll start it and then I send it to that person and they send it back as version 2. I'll add a few more slides. And then if we use something like Dropbox, sure enough, somehow or another, we both ended up having it open at the same time. And now there's 2 copies of it and we don't really know which one's the right one. Google Presentations fixes all of that. I recommend if you're going to be collaborating on a presentation, even if you don't plan to use Google Presentations, you start with Google Presentations. And then when you're done, you can say File, Download As, and download it as a PowerPoint file. Because if you look at what this does, if I were to invite any of you to collaborate on this, I would see your picture next to whatever slide you're on. I would see the changes you make instantly, just like I saw Jackie making some changes earlier. And then you can also add comments. So somebody could just go in and comment on a slide or on an image and say, hey, don't really like the looks of this. Should we change this or change that? And you can have a conversation going back and forth. So lots of things that you can do with presentations. What I also like is, I have this presentation, Intro to Google Apps for Education, open. Now I could share this with anyone just like before. And what I do many times, get the share button up here. What I do many times is just share a view-only copy with people whenever I'm doing a presentation. Of course, the server has encountered an error, so that's a good time for Google to stop working. Yeah, okay, here we go. So if I go share with others, currently people at TextHelp with a link can view. If I want to change it to where everyone can view, again, I can just say more. I want anyone with a link to be able to view it and hit save. Now here's the problem is you see this link? It's super long, so good luck memorizing that link. Now I could copy the link and I could open my email and send it to the people that I wanted, and that's okay as well. But if I wanted to just include it somewhere for people to see, I use the Google URL shortener. So if you're not familiar with Google URL shortener, there are other URL shorteners as well. You can go to goo.gl, as I've done here. You see I'm signed in, j.carroll@TextHelp. I can paste that super long URL here and hit shorten, and then it creates this short URL, which is always goo.gl, and then you see slash, it is case sensitive, so FEVTDA. And you can copy that and paste it somewhere. So for those of you watching, if I just do command copy, I'm on a Mac here, and I hit done, I could just paste the thing here. Right, so there it is. I'll make it a little bigger. So if any of you all can see that and type it in, go to that link, you will actually see yourself, or if you're anonymous, such as Anonymous Iguana here, you'll see that that you can get into that, and it looks like a couple more people are popping up as well. So kind of neat to see that if you do that, now you have access to the presentation. Hopefully I turned it on view only, otherwise you guys will probably be deleting stuff just to mess with me. So so that's how that's kind of how you can take advantage of sharing these things with others. It works real well in classroom settings as well. Imagine you're doing a presentation in front of a class. You've got all your slides and bullet points. Students are trying to take notes, but then you can just share the presentation with them so they could have access on any device. Doesn't matter if they're on an iPad or a Chromebook or a Mac or a PC or whatever they may be on. So loads of people hopping into the presentation there. Right, so that's Google Presentations. The last thing I want to touch on, because I want to leave 5 or 10 minutes for questions at the end. Sorry, 2 more things I want to hop in on. One is going to be forms, and then the other just a brief conversation about apps and extensions. So let's take a look at Google Forms. Now, I don't know how many people. Could I get somebody? Could you type in yes or no in the questions box if you've used Google Forms before, just to give me an idea on whether or not that's the case? A few no's, mostly yeses. I should timestamp these things. Ah, cool. Okay, loads of yeses and a few no's in there. So then we'll keep this super basic because there are some no's, and I think everybody could always pick up a few things. Google Forms is probably the best part of Google Apps for Education, aside from the collaboration features of everything else. So if I just go to New, not a doc, not a sheet, not a slide, I go over to a form, Google Forms. It brings up a form, and you can see here it's saying there's all kinds of settings, right? So if I want people, I'm in text help, so replace text help with your school. If I want people from my school to log in to view this form, I can make them do that. That way no one from outside of my school gets it, if it's some kind of quiz or something like that, or something confidential maybe. You can automatically collect their username. So if you want to know who they are without asking them their name, you can set it to automatically do that. You can show a progress bar, like if you got multiple pages, only allow one response. Sometimes, for example, if you're taking some kind of survey, you don't want one person to go in and take the same survey 79 times to inflate the results. So you may only want to allow one response per person that has logged in. And then you can always shuffle the question order if you're doing quizzes. So plenty of settings that you can do, but the basics is you give the form a title. And we'll just call this a Gaphy webinar form. And you can have a question title here. So what's the question? This is the question. I'm not feeling super clever today, so I'm just going to say, what is your favorite color? And so for those in the UK, I'm spelling color in US English. So I'll put a question mark on that. You can put help text if you want to include anything there. The question type, I'm going to make it multiple choice. I'm going to say blue, yellow, green, purple, orange. I don't want to leave anyone out here. I'm sure there are many favorite colors out there, but we're going to stop at that. You can add other if you want some. Oh, do that. I'll add other in there that you can choose, and then you can say if you want this to be required or not for people to answer. When you're done, you can see here is your, here's your first question. Now you can go and add your next one. So it says add item. Here are your options. You can make it a text answer, like maybe just what's your name. You can make it a paragraph if it's a short answer type thing. You have multiple choice check boxes if it's one where it can be multiple options on there that are correct. You can have a drop down list. You can also do some more advanced things if you'd like. You can also you can insert images and videos. So I've seen a lot of people will insert like a YouTube video showing how to do some math equation, and then have two questions under that showing similar math problems that they were to work out, but they got the video that they can look at for reference, which is also an excellent homework support. If you're working with students, let's say that I have a child taking algebra. Luckily, she's not that old yet, but if she comes home with algebra homework, good luck me being able to help. But what if you made the form, what if you made the homework as a Google form and you started it with a video of how to do the equations, then you asked the questions. So when she got home, I could watch the video with her and then help her with the homework and all those sort of things. So just some ideas for how you could use a Google form there. So you can also add a page break. So I'm going to make a new page. I'm going to call this the blue page. And I'm going to make another page called the yellow page. And you can add whatever you want under these pages. You can add videos or more questions and so on. But you can do some pretty advanced stuff here, because if I wanted to take you somewhere based off your answer, like, hey, you didn't do too well, you may need to look at this video, or you did great, move on to the next one. You can see if I went back in to edit my questions, I can say multiple choice. You see where it says go to page based on answer? So I could choose that and say blue, I want you to go to blue page. Yellow, go to yellow page, right? And so I say done. And now whenever this thing goes live, if somebody chooses the blue page and clicks, submit or whatever, it's going to take them to the blue page that I created. So you can do loads of advanced stuff here. You can also change, the way that that things look. Here it says change theme. Google gives you several themes that you can choose from if you're into making things pretty. So we'll choose that one. It looks like the beach. I like that. Go back to edit questions here. You can also, what's important is where do you get your responses at? So once you go in and students go and put in, their answer to these questions, like how do you get that answer? And what happens under responses, if you just click view responses, it'll show you where they go. Basically what happens is it creates a Google Sheet for you with the same name of the form. And whenever people put, or whenever anyone were to put an answer in, it's going to timestamp it. It'll give you their name if you required them to sign in, and then it'll have their answer underneath that. And now that it's in Sheets, think about it if you're doing, tests and things, you can have it automatically score and do all kinds of fancy things with that, but it's more of an advanced topic than what we're covering here. You can also change the response destination. So if you don't want it to go to that form, let's say you want it to go to an existing form or some new form, well, then you can just change the response destination and have it go from there. So that's it. Here I'll just say view the live form. So this shows me the live form. This is what students would see. And I'll choose blue and say continue. And now I'm on the blue page. I didn't put anything under the blue page, but you can see what that looks like there. Continue, yellow page, and so on. So leave this page, and it should, I wonder if it, oh, I didn't get to the end and hit submit, sorry. So when you actually hit submit, it would then plug your answer into the form. So that's Google Forms. You can use these for anything. You can use these for surveys. You can use these for tests. You can use them for quizzes. There's a number of different things that you can use forms for. Homework, the kind of things, the bell ringer things kids do when they come in, or the exit slips before they leave. Tons of ideas there. Right, so last but not least, I want to show you real quick, if you're using Google Apps for education, there are apps and extensions available. And I've listed, several of you have access to this presentation already. I've listed a few here that you may want to take a look at. But what that does, basically, it extends the capability of what you can do in Google Chrome. Some things are going to be specific. There are add-ins that are specific to Sheets and add-ins that are specific to Forms that allow you to do, really cool things in Sheets and Forms and Docs and so on. But then there are also overall extensions that you can just plug into your browser. And the way those work, I'm just going to go to a new page here and type in Chrome Web Store. So just like an iPhone has apps that you can use, so does Chrome, the web browser, have apps and extensions that you can use. So if I were to go to Chrome Web Store, this takes me to the Chrome Web Store to where I can look for different apps and extensions and things that I can add into my Google Chrome web browser to make a better educational experience, I guess I should say. So there are all kinds of things you can look for here. But if you go under education, there are some specific to education. But there are graphic organizers, accessibility extensions. I mean, there are math extensions and things like that you can add in. There's bookmark extensions, loads of different things you can add in. I've listed a few on the presentation you can check out. I'll just show you real quick. It's the one I'm most familiar with because it's the one we create here. So if I were to type in read and write, I'll type in read and write real quick, and you'll see the extension read and write for Google, which places a toolbar on websites and Google Documents and things like that, to make it more accessible for students, especially struggling readers and writers. So here's read and write for Google. I found it. It's already added to Chrome. If not, I would just click there and it would add it to Chrome. And then what happens is in the case of read and write for Google anyways, all extensions do something different. But if I were to go open up a document, here's history of the Olympic Games. We've got a theme going on here with gladiators and Olympics and all that kind of stuff. So I'm in a Google document, and because I've installed this extension, you'll see that there is a toolbar up here, a little tab here, and if I click it, it gives me this toolbar, which is read and write for Google, and now I can do loads of things. I can click and hit play.
The Olympic Games as we know them today have a long history.
And I'm not sure if you guys can hear that or not. I have earbuds on here, but it'll read any text out loud. It'll give you definitions. It'll give you picture definitions as well that you can use, which is helpful for English language learners and emerging readers. There's word prediction support. highlighting tools that will allow you to take anything you highlight and pull it into another Google Doc. This will work on websites as well. So it's a great study aid. There's a vocabulary list. There's even speech input, so that if you turn on speech input, I could talk, and as long as I have a microphone, it would insert the words that I'm saying into a document. So that's Read and Write for Google that you can check out. And the way that works, it's free for 30 days for everyone. It stays free for teachers. So I'm going to assume that many of you are teachers, and you could just go to once you install it, you could go to the help, the question mark there. That would take you to how you get started with the extension. And then if you click on the logo on the top left, you'll see where it says free for teachers. And there is you click that link and fill out the form, and you get access to the whole thing for free. So it does quite a few different things there. So that's one example of a extension, but there's probably 100,000 extensions out there, right? I have some others installed up here as well, which is why if you see, I'm going to add that here again in case some of you didn't see it. You're more than welcome to jot down some of these here. Just have a look. Here's the link to this presentation if you didn't already get a chance to see it. But there's Read and Write for Google. Evernote Web Clipper. I use Evernote to organize all of my stuff, all of my notes and things like that. So there's Evernote Web Clipper that's nice. Lucidcharts is an excellent graphic organizer extension that's free. Even all the premium stuff I think is free for education. Awesome Screenshot allows you to take screenshots, which you probably don't need on a Mac or a PC, but it does come in handy on a Chromebook, I think. Google Dictionary is good. Video Notes is excellent. You can go to Video Notes, and it adds into your Google Drive. And so you can open up a YouTube video on one end, and on the other end, you have a place to take notes at, and it timestamps each note so you know where that came from in the video. And the panic button is just kind of a funny little one that I put up there. So, guys, we are about out of time here. I'm going to look and answer a few questions. I'll give you a couple of minutes to make sure you have that link in case you want access to this presentation, and then I'll put my contact information up again. So, okay, so I am in okay, so there's going to be a lot of questions. I'm going to pop this out, and I'll answer as many of these as I can. If I don't answer your question, feel free to contact me on the contact page, which hopefully you guys can see. I don't think you see this question module that I put in front of the screen. Okay, so you're welcome for the presentation. Is Read and Write for Google free for, I think that's going to say students as well. No, it's a freemium thing. So Read and Write for Google is one of the things. The text-to-speech in Google Docs and websites, that stays free forever. The other features, including Google Docs, web, PDFs, EPUBs, things like that, all of those supports there. That's free for 30 days, and then there is a charge, but it's based on, do you want it for an individual, for a group of students, the whole domain, and so on. So if you have questions on that, feel free to shoot me an email. So why is my district reluctant to have student accounts, for student accounts to have extensions? Well, yeah, so what happens anytime you install an extension, they're going to ask for certain permissions. And if you just open a web store up to where students can download anything, there's probably some things in there that ask for things they don't need, and they may use that. Google's pretty good about keeping an eye on things, but it may ask for permissions that students shouldn't be giving. But now there is a way that districts can set up their own Chrome store and only allow certain extensions, so maybe they only want a few educational ones in there. So different districts have different policies, but yes, it does usually have something to do with just policy with permissions and all those sort of things on there. Right, video, yeah, there's hopefully going to be a video available for this. It's still recording at the moment, so I'm going to stop the recording, but I'll continue to answer some questions here.